This channel is proudly brought to you by... I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch!
Linking on my brain. Okay. Linking on my brain. I got linking on my brain. Whoa.
If stupidity was a gift, BullFrog mindset is the gift that keeps on giving. And yet Christmas was over 4 weeks ago. And the only reason he won't go silently back to his side of the pond is because he's jumpy over the simple fact that no one over here is willing to subscribe to a creature that only promotes the catching and spreading of warts around the pond. In fact, MGTOWs are more like tree frogs. We might be related to bullfrogs, but we are far more intelligent from an evolutionary standpoint. And though we all came from the pond, we are not bound by it. Sometimes a MGTOW might get in the waters for a quick swim, but then it's back to the trees, away from the predators of the water. You see, we understand that avoiding the pond does not necessarily mean that predators will not find us. However, it definitely increases our chances of survival to acknowledge the safer way to live. BullFrog mindset is only here to promote fairy tales. The fairy tale that someday, some mythical Nawalt princess will walk up to each and every frog and bullfrog alike and kiss them on the lips, setting them free from the ponds and trees. But the truth is this: there just aren't enough princesses in the world anymore in 2020, because most kingdoms have fallen to the queens that abort their children and enslave their own kings. Ironically, they do this even as their own empires collapse as a result. MGTOW are quite aware that if she walks up to the pond, we need to be smart enough to realize, if they put us to their mouths, it's only going to be at the end of a fork, and not the kiss that was predicted. So anyways, let's hear what this bullfrog has to say. Again. Yes, that's what I said. Alright guys, instead of breaking the entire video down, I actually time-stamped a bunch of things that he said here in the comment section. And I'm sure it's shadow banned, I'm sure nobody can see the comment, but I'm going to read it anyways. But also just know that I put a link in the description to this video, so if you want to go over there and poke around on his channel a little bit, go ahead and do that. Be sure to smash the dislike button on his channel as well. Anyways, we're going to start off the video.
In this video, we're going to be talking about MGTOW. Again, these guys really started, a lot of them embody the victim mindset, and I think it's really important to understand this. I'm actually going to read a really...
Isn't it just interesting how he makes the same points in every anti-MGTOW video that he makes? Every single one. Same points. Now, I've already refuted his last, the last video that he did, where again he claimed that we're a bunch of victimhood mentality type of men. We're just making this shit up in our heads. We're just creating a world where we're victims when it's just not true. And, the way I'm going to look at it is this. If you're going to keep making the same points, I'm going to keep debunking the same points. And most of our critics, it's like a big circle jerk. They all use the same talking points over and over. It's just amazing. And that just goes to show you just how programmed society is when they're regurgitating the same talking points, even though those talking points can be debunked. Now, number one, in order to be a victim, have the victimhood mentality. If you have the victimhood mentality, it's not necessarily a bad thing. For some reason, it's used as shaming language. Now, if a person gets assaulted in a Walmart parking lot and decides, oh, I should carry a pistol with me from now on so people don't assault me. It's a dangerous area. There's a lot of crime. Does that mean that they have a victimhood mentality? Simply because they seen the risks, some shit went down, and they learned from it. And they said, you know what? I'm going to better protect myself in the future. It's just like I said the other day. You know, if you were a fly and you figured out that spider webs are quite dangerous, and you try to tell the other flies, hey, don't fly into that spider web, you're going to get ate. Is that fly consumed by a victimhood mentality, or is he being smart and trying to avoid being eaten? You see, somehow our critics have it in their heads that if you avoid being eaten, that somehow that means that you have been consumed by a victimhood mentality. And it's nothing more than a shame tactic. But here in MGTOW, shame tactics do not work. So nice try. Nice try, though. All right, now we're going to go to the second one here. God damn it. Here we go.
This video, what does MGTOW really want? And in that video, what I tried to do was really be, you know, in the previous video when I talked about MGTOW, I had used a lot of shaming language. I agree with that. And I was trying to be pretty forthcoming in saying that, you know, I agree with a lot of the MGTOW stuff, but here's where you guys get it wrong.
You see, there he goes, trying to meet MGTOW halfway. You know, that's just a manipulation tactic. That's a gaslighting maneuver. That's all that is. But you see, he's pointing out the fact that everybody else has pointed out how he does nothing but use shaming language. And then he acknowledges that he wrongfully used, you know, shaming language. And yet, you know, a couple minutes later, you know, this is at the beginning. This is what? A minute into the video that he says this. He points out that in his previous videos, he used, you know, quite a bit, you know, too much of that shaming language. And we pointed it out. We pointed it out and how it's not going to work. And so he accepts that he shouldn't do it, right? But, you know, 10 fucking minutes later into the video, this is what he says. You know, after acknowledging that he shouldn't have been using the shaming language, look at what else he says.
Fucking gene pool. This is not an act. You can't possibly be an alpha male. You can't possibly be, you know, a superior being if you're going to die out. Okay? You're not the Ubermensch. You are not Superman. You're fucking a dead end in the evolutionary tree. Alright? Especially if you're fucking a sex doll. How pathetic is that? Come on, guys. Are we really that pathetic? Let's not be so.
Did you see all that shaming language? You know, we always say this, but cucks, they never learn. They never learn. How are you going to sit there and acknowledge that you used a lot of shaming language in previous videos? How are you going to acknowledge that that was wrong of you? And then 10 minutes later in the same goddamn video, classic shaming language, calling us pathetic. It's as if you think that a man only has value if he reproduces and puts himself at risk in the process. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. And it just goes to show you what happens, you know, when feminism infiltrates society and it becomes normalized. You know, you end up with all these men who might look like alphas, but they're filled with self-hate. You know, we always hear these feminists talk about internalizing misogyny. This guy has internalized gynocentrism and misandry. He's internalized it. And yet he has the gall to sit here and contradict himself. Almost everything he says in this video, he contradicts it a few minutes later. I mean, and look, here's another generic tactic that he says right here. Check this out.
Mindset, not all MGTOW fall into this. You know, don't teach a generation of younger men to hate women just because you've had bad experiences, but give them...
Isn't that interesting? Don't teach a generation of men to hate women. We are not teaching a generation of men to hate women. We are teaching a generation of men to understand women. And to quit, sacrificing your own life as a man, your own happiness and your own goals and your own sanity. Quit sacrificing it on the altar of gynocentrism. That's what we're teaching men. It's called sovereignty. Look it up. And last I checked, this is a free country. No race, no religion, no gender, no philosophy automatically deserves respect. It's earned one by one. For some reason, when people talk about women, they act as though we're supposed to just bow and respect them all as a fucking collective, no matter the divorce rate, no matter the false rape claims that are going on. There's all kinds of false claims going on. It's not just rape, false assault claims, false child endangerment claims. All kinds of these things are going on, and the court automatically sides with these bitches. And you want us to turn a blind eye. I'm sorry, that's not hate when you look at statistics and you make a better judgment than what guys have been making. That's not hate. That's called being smart.
This guy's a cock and comments about all kinds of, ad hominem personal attacks like I always expect from MGTOW guys. Actually, not too.
It's interesting. He sits there and laments like he's a victim. Like, oh, I knew I was going to get these ad hominem attacks. I expect that from MGTOW. Motherfucker, you're the one that's attacking us. You're the one that can't stop putting MGTOW in your titles. But you want us to be all respectful. I pointed this out in the last video. You want to talk about respect, but you have disrespected this entire community multiple times. Don't talk to us about being respectful. And as far as personal attacks goes, you have no right to judge us. You're the one that contradicts yourself, admitting that you shouldn't have used, all that shaming language, but then 10 minutes later, you're calling us pathetic. That's a personal attack. Because you're basically saying we have no worth unless we bust a nut in a bitch and she pops out some kids. That's what pisses you off. But anyways, I digress. And we're going to go back to the part where he says MGTOW will die out. Let's go back to that for a second.
Gene pool. This is not an act. You can't possibly be an alpha male. You can't possibly be.
In his mind, you can't be an alpha male unless you add to the gene pool. Now, last I checked, when you look at the kingdom, yes, the alpha males tend to be surrounded by women. And a lot of times, that's how it's established. But they never specify that the alpha has to actually produce a baby or cub with the female of his species. Now, you can be an alpha and be a MGTOW. Women can drool all over you, want you, and da-da-da-da. But so long as you don't give them a ring on their finger, and you don't cohabitate, and you don't marry them, and you don't purposely, impregnate them, you can still be an alpha. I don't understand where his logic is coming from. It's not even based on biology. Yes, the alphas tend to impregnate the women. They tend to. But that's not the main trait of being alpha. Being alpha means you're not going to let the next man run over you or take over your kingdom. If you're fucking a bitch, if you're smashing and dashing a bitch, as a MGTOW, You may or may not want the next guy trying to hit on that girl that night. You may get into a brawl. You're trying to secure that pussy for the night and somebody tries to cock block, you might get mad and whoop his ass. But getting laid in general is not a cornerstone of MGTOW like it is for the pickup artist community. And maybe that's what's confusing to this piece of shit. These PUAs, they're always patting themselves on the back talking about what is and isn't alpha. So is it alpha, to fuck around and have all these illegitimate children? Is it alpha to eventually catch a STD? Is it alpha to get a sexual harassment lawsuit because you played the numbers game and it bit you in the ass? Is that alpha? I don't think so. But anyways, he always says that he's going to teach us how to be a man. Look at this. Look at this right here. He always says this shit right here. Check it out.
Be a better man, trying to teach you the things that you need to know to be a man. It's kind of funny. Some people say, "Hey, John, that's pretty weird. You're going to teach me how to be a man." Yes, I am going to fucking teach you how to be a man because you don't know how to fucking be a man. All right?
Look, motherfucker, you do not get to tell me what it means to be a man as a MGTOW. Because, again, since we're talking about cornerstones, one of the cornerstones of MGTOW is not letting society dictate what is or is not manly, what is or is not manhood, what is or is not masculine. Because when you leave it up to society, they're just going to say that everything that is masculine is somehow toxic. That's why we don't listen to simps like you. You didn't just drink the feminist Kool-Aid, you drank the whole goddamn pitcher. And then you went and made more for the next day. That's you. So I'm not going to sit here on YouTube watching your videos, taking your advice on what it means to be a man. My testosterone levels are through the roof. I don't need your advice. But nice try though. Nice try with the gaslighting there.
About how to be a fucking man, but it is a fucking problem. I'm not here to attack MGTOW because I want to start a fight or because I don't like these guys, right? I don't like this philosophy, but I would want a lot of MGTOW guys to realize how...
Look, you see that shit? He says, I don't want to start a fight with MGTOW because I don't like these guys, but I don't like the philosophy. That's such a contradictory statement. He says that he's not trying to start a fight. And number one, he is. You produce 5 videos, anti-MGTOW videos, yet you're just trying to start a fight. He says he's not trying to start a fight with MGTOW because he doesn't like us. That's not the reason. It's because he doesn't like the philosophy. We are the philosophy, dumbass. So whenever you say, oh, it's not that I don't like you, I just don't like your philosophy. That's straight up saying that you don't like us. Even though 5 seconds before you said, it's not that. That's what it is. Because we're not going to subscribe to your content. You can't force someone to love you in this world. MGTOW understands that. Just like you can't force somebody to subscribe to your bullshit channel. You can't force anybody to do anything. I know that's hard for you to accept. But that's the way it is. But anyways, we're going to go a couple more clips here. This is one of his most common talking points right here. Check this out.
For about 2 years. Yeah, that's a pretty long time. And yes, they are becoming like male feminists. The second you say all, quote, fill in the blank, you are wrong unless you're talking about maybe the Nazis, all right? There are women out there who are not bad. There are good marriages. Not everyone is out to get the male. Not every woman is out to get the male, okay? This is a perfectly fucking reasonable statement.
That's amazing. These cucks, they always miss the point. It's like the biggest whoosh moment ever when it comes to these critics. They always attack us because we say AWALT, A-W-A-L-T, which stands for all women are like that. Now, most of us, after looking at statistics, if we were going to pinpoint a specific number it would be more like 80 out of 100 women are like that. Not all. However, as Tom Likas used to say, we should only give advice based on what's likely to happen, not advice based on what's unlikely to happen. If we were to advocate for marriage, most guys that take that advice would get divorce rate, because 80% of marriages, they end up in divorce. And 8 out of 10, divorces are filed by women. This is simple numbers crunch. We're not making this shit up. But, he wants to lament about, oh, these guys are always talking about, oh, all women are like that. And it's not true. Look, we know that not all women are like that. But we are going to give advice based on what's likely to happen, based on what's likely as far as the traits that these men engage with are going to have. If we know what a common trait is in females that might sabotage a man's life, or any common agendas that women have that might sabotage a man's life, if it's common, we should point it out for our brothers. That's the right thing to do. Don't lie. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to pretend like most women are good when the statistics clearly prove that that's not the case. That these women are out there, fucking guys over left and right. Left and right. And between dark female nature, this gynocentric system, this gynocentric government, and beta simps like you, it seems like it's never going to get better. It's never going to end. Because none of you want to accept reality. And you want us to lie to cover it up. We're not going to lie. We're not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, we're just going to ignore the fact that, 80% of marriages, end up slamming into a fucking wall. We should just ignore that. We should just ignore all of the work related deaths involving men, as far as building society and maintaining it and protecting it. We should just ignore that. We should just ignore the homeless rate and how it's mostly men. We should just ignore how men are always the ones getting divorce rate, not women, and that we lose all the kids. A woman could take your sperm out of a fucking condom, impregnate herself, and you get fucked over for it. You get fucked over for it as a man. We should just forget all these things and move on with our lives and just keep lamenting about how great women are as a collective. And how great everything is and how great the system is. Right? That's what they want. But I have news for you. Not going to happen. I'm going to tell men the truth. Unlike you. Now, interestingly enough, only 60 seconds later after he goes on a tangent bashing us, he basically admits that we are right about female nature. Check this out. This is pure gold.
There is definitely a level of ridiculousness just in society at large that is generally informed by the feminist agenda that has caused a lot of women today to become what I would call intolerable. Okay, it is definitely rare to find women out there that are good, but I would.
You see that? It's rare to find women out there that are good. So that just makes the previous point that I just made. Why would you give advice based on something that's unlikely to happen? Case in point, right there. But it's always our fault. It's always our fault. And I think part of him realized that he slipped up there and basically admitted that MGTOW's right about female nature. We're basically right. He admitted it right there. But he realized that in the back of his head, and he goes, fuck, I got to clean this up. So what does he do? Starts to point the finger at men. Check this out. Starts to blame us.
That essentially how a woman behaves in a relationship with a man oftentimes has more to do with how the man behaves than the woman's nature or her attributes. Okay? I know this is heresy.
Okay, so Oftentimes, if a woman divorce rapes a man, it's his fault. Oftentimes, if a woman makes a false rape claim, it's the man's fault. Oftentimes, if a woman commits false paternity fraud, oh, it's the man's fault. If the woman never wants to pay for a meal, oh, it's the man's fault. If the woman nags and nags and nags all day, oh, it's the man's fault. You know, it's always the man's fault. Some fucking how. How is it that he intends to teach men how to be men when he teaches them to blame themselves? You know, men, we take responsibility. Oh yeah, we take responsibility for things in our lives, and we should. But when somebody tricks you into thinking, you know, into believing that they love you, they say yes to your proposal, and then they turn into a fucking succubus and they destroy your life, that's not the man's fault. Now, the only way that a man getting divorce raped would be his fault, or any of these things that I mentioned, the only way it would be a man's fault, truthfully, is if he runs across MGTOW content and then denies its authenticity. If you deny the truth that comes out of MGTOW and you eventually get divorce raped or you get Me Too'd, then it's your fault. Then it's your fault. Somebody tricking you to trust them and you falling for it, it's not your fault. Now, if you keep making that mistake over and over and over and over, you keep trusting these bitches with your wallet and your heart, and you keep getting stabbed in the fucking chest and in the back, and you keep doing it, and you keep living in denial, and it keeps happening, and then your life is in shambles, then it's your fault. But until then, no, it's not. It's not a man's fault until that happens. So, you know, think about it. We ran across MGTOW content. We accepted truth. So shit's not going to go down for us. All right, now let's go to 518 on the video right quick. Here we go.
Being the bitch, and that's why she's acting the way that she does. Not all the time, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna like blame the man for everything, but you're the fucking man, so act like the fucking man, right? You have to take ownership for your life and for your relationships and how people treat you. And
you see that? He says, I'm not gonna blame the man, and then he proceeds to blame the man again. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna leave a link in the description. So I want you guys to go over there, smash that dislike button like you're smashing a thought, like you're smashing and dashing a bitch. Smash that dislike button on his video. And also, put hashtag all simps are like that. ASALT. Be sure to put that all over his channel, so that way he knows, you know, where this video came from, who responded to him, because he's going to type it into the search bar, and hopefully he finds my video. Anyways, guys, this is Mike the MGTOW Man signing off, and as always, never give in, never surrender, never go swimming with bullfrogs, MGTOW for life.